V1 රැස්වීදෙන ජීවිතේ.
දුකෙන් ගලවා සතුට දක්වා ජනතාව එතෙර කරන බලාපොරොත්තුවේ පාලම ගම් මැද්දෙන් දඹුල්ල කළුගලට හම්බෙගමුව වටමඩට ගාල්ල නෙළුවට හුන්නස්ගිරිය පොප්පිටියට බලංගොඩ පීල්ල කුඹුරට උඩ වැවගම වෑගොල්ලට මාතලේ උස්සානට නෙළුව දෙල්ලවට ගාල්ල කීන කැටියට මොනරාගල ඉඳුරු ගස් වැවට බදුල්ල පිටමාරුවට ජීවිතයෙන් එතෙර වෙන්න පාඩමක් එක්ක පාලමක් ගම් මැද්ද රට නගන ජන පෞර.
Newsfirst, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
And a very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline Live. We are broadcasting, as we almost always do, from the Newsfirst studios in Dawson Street in Colombo. My guest this evening is Member of Parliament for representing the SJB, and he's right here with us, former banker, now politician, Mr. Eran Wickramaratne. Very good evening to you,
Good
sir.
evening.
The theme of this program today is the dollar crisis. No matter what has happened so far, the fact of the matter is that the current US dollar crisis has created an economic crisis. The economic crisis has created a social crisis, and that has turned into a political crisis. The bottom line is that we've got no dollars, and instead of these arguing about who the deputy speaker is twice and so on and so forth, why can't we have at least 6-point plan? I was going to say 10, which changed my mind. 10-point plan, 6-point plan to address this most pressing problem. Over to you.
Thank you, Faraz. Faraz, I have to say you right at the outset that I completely disagree with your analysis.
So it's not a dollar crisis?
No, you said we have a dollar crisis, it's related to a social and to a political crisis. It's not true. It's the reverse. It's a political crisis that we have, and the political crisis has led to an economic crisis. Because if you take Sri Lanka, right, over a period of time, right, we have had our twin deficits, budget deficits, balance of payments deficits, but governments have been able to manage it and never got into a crisis like this. Here is a government where you have a president overwhelmingly elected, you have a parliament that supports him with a 2/3 majority, and he has also assumed more power by amending the constitution. And then he bypasses parliament, he bypasses his own cabinet from his own party, and they revolt, they resign, and he tries to run the country with 4 officials. Now, do you call that an economic crisis? It's a crisis, a political crisis that has created an economic crisis. So the question is, right, everybody thinks that, right, if we can immediately solve the petrol queue or the gas queue or the electricity cuts or the essential medicines or whatever, those issues can be resolved. And just to tell you why, on this argument, you had the former finance minister, Ali Sabri. He goes to Washington with his team. He goes to the IMF, and the IMF basically says 2 things, right? You need to have political stability, i.e. a government that is reliable, credible, acceptable to the markets, to the public in the country, and to the international markets. That's number 1. 2, he says we need to see the signs of debt. The IMF says we need to see the signs of debt sustainability, and then we can be talking about moving in that direction, having an agreement with the IMF, maybe assisting with you in different ways because we had to do debt restructuring and so forth and so on. So that is the primary crisis that we have. We need to resolve that crisis, and the economic solutions will follow. We were confident that we could do that, right? We were confident that we could do that, and that is why we said to the president, right, that if Sajid Premadasa is sworn in as Prime Minister, we will form our own government. But we had the condition. The conditionality was that the political crisis needs to be resolved and that was bring in the 21st Amendment, right, and the powers of the executive president must be curtailed. That is what we pressed for. He found an easy way out. What is the easy way he found? He found a prime minister who doesn't have any conditionality, and that's how he has gone.
But all of this doesn't lead to us having any more dollars. We are in this utterly disgraceful position where we can't pay. I think today probably is the last day of any available fuel. The fuel queues have actually got longer in the last 3 days than ever before. I saw one of our reporters saying it's 3 kilometers long. The people's problems have intensified, and on the back of that there is a movement called the Gammadda movement, and if I may say so, the Gammadda movement, thank God for that, because it started all those years ago, thanks to my late chairman, Mr. Kili Rajamahendran, and who took it on and provided a platform for the voiceless and to those who were desperately forgotten by successive governments and officials. And today I spoke earlier to the group director at the Capital Maharaja Group, and who's also the director in charge of News First. And this is what Mr. Siobhan Daniel had to say, and it's coming up right now.
And recently we spoke to Capital Maharaja Group Director Siobhan Daniel on this very serious matter that's going on in our country. Tell me, Siobhan, Gammadda has come of age. It's become part and parcel of Sri Lankan life. Most Sri Lankans know about Gammadda. What's Gammadda doing in this time of dire need?
Hello, Faraz. And I think if Gammadda has achieved anything, it's thanks to the people of Sri Lanka who really make up everything about Gammadda. At this time, Gammadda has expanded to support people's day-to-day lives. We know that rural families in particular are having a really difficult time trying to make ends meet and have 3 square meals a day. So we're working with quite a few groups and individuals to try to provide people with rations that would last them a couple of weeks, that would take the pressure off, basically the weight of day-to-day living. In addition to this, of course, the general Gammadda projects are moving ahead. We will be inaugurating a reverse osmosis plant which provides purified drinking water to Galimbidanuwewa tomorrow, the 19th. That's in memory of the founder of Gammadda, the late chairman of the Capital Maharaja organization, Mr. Rajamahendran. And also, we're planning to announce a major partnership with 2 of the world's most prestigious universities, Brown University in Rhode Island in the US, and also the Clinton School of Public Service, which is really good news for all of Sri Lanka, in that both these universities will have their students study Gammadda as an example of a rural movement that's basically led by the people and is making a difference in communities.
That's absolutely amazing. So Gammadda is actually gone international. It's we've been recognized previously, of course, by including the United Nations for its work. But tell me more about this tie-up, or the fact that 2 prestigious universities in the United States are actually going to be studying Gammadda.
Yes, so we've actually worked with the Clinton School before, where their graduate students have studied Gammadda and conducted various projects through Gammadda. But what we've done is we've expanded it now to include more students with the Clinton School, and also expanded it to Brown University, which is the 6th oldest university in the U.S., one of the most prestigious Ivy League schools. And graduate students at the Brown University at the Watson Institute will also be working similarly with the Gammadda team, not just to work on individual projects with Gammadda, but also to study the successes of Gammadda, how it grew over the past decade or so, and what attributes supported the movement to become as impactful as it is. I think one of the things that we've learned, just being part of the day-to-day process, is that we ask for a system change. But system change involves a lot of work every day. I think it's a slow trudge, and you need to be dedicated to the process. And that's not something we began knowing where we were going. I think when the chairman founded Gammadha about 12 or 13 years ago, it was just addressing a need. But in the process of addressing that need, I think what we found was respecting and being committed to a process and dedicating yourself to that process through the ups and downs is really what changing a system and bringing about systemic change is all about. And I think that is something that both Brown and the Clinton School and also the United Nations had seen in Gammadha. And I think as Sri Lankans, there's a lot that is disappointing and despondent, but this is something that I think we all can be proud of.
And so really, Gammadha is like a little even silver lining in an otherwise dark and cloudy ambience.
Well, I think every Sri Lankan who's being part of Gammadha and who's not even been able to be part of it but knows about it can be proud of it, because Gammadha would be nothing if not for the people.
Thank you very much. And that was us talking to Mr. Shevan Daniel, a group director at the Capital Maharaja Group.
Thank you.
And that's absolutely true, Eran. Gammadha, we have the people's interest at heart. And we've never lost focus. And the late Mr. Kili Rajamandran, he was very passionate about that. He was very passionate about providing the voice to the voiceless. But I dare say my late chairman would have been appalled at the state of the economy in this country. Not only because it affects this group, but because we employ so many thousands of people. But Eran, I'm going back to this whole thing about the lack of dollars. I understand the mechanics of all this, but the youth, when they went out on the street, it had come to a point of no return. They had exhausted all their available tolerances, and there was nothing else to do but to start. So, we had people like Angelo and so on who went there, silent protest with a candle and so on, and it snowballed from there. But, your party came within hours probably of trying to form a government. You all had conditions, quite rightly too. And therefore, you must have had a plan. And surely that plan would have been the immediate an immediate decision to help the people. It's pretty grim out there, Eran. I'm sure you know that. It's grim. So what was your plan? You're a member of this think tank of the SJB in terms of the economy. What's your plan? What was your plan?
Yeah, so I might want to say, particularly because you referred to Mr. Kili Rajamahendran, that I knew him as a banker, not when I came into politics. And certainly he was a person with a very lot of foresight and vision, and understood, practically understood how an economy works and practically how it affects the lives of people. So certainly we have lost him at a very vital stage. People got on the streets, particularly the young people, and what was they asking for? Their themes were basically Gota go home, Rajapaksas go home, have a clean government, change the political culture of this country. Why were they saying? These were the bigger issues. The economic crisis was in it for sure, but the bigger issues were these. They wanted to see a change. So they were standing up for it. This came from civil society. This came across the country. And then, so the question is, right, we can't just think that this is just an economic issue. We have to address that issue, and then we have an economic issue which has surfaced because of the political crisis, and then, what's the plan? Then you said that you came very close to, taking office in resolving this issue. That's correct. Sajid Premdas is invited. He told the president he'll discuss it with his team. After he discussed it with us, we said we should take government, right, and we should form a new cabinet. We go for a conversation with the president. I was a part of that team. We tell the president, yes, we are ready to do that, but you have to make the reform. And we said we have already presented an amendment called the 21st Amendment, which basically reduces the power of the executive presidency, right, and it should be brought in. And then we said we can, if there is a referendum needed, we can do that 6 months later. We can talk about a timetable. Yes. That's the route we should want to go. Right. So we had a plan, and we still have a plan. But that is in terms of the wider.
It can't be top secret, is it?
It's not top secret. So it is. That was the reason why the president went for an easier solution in his mind than the plan we had.
But now, are you suggesting that the president? Are you suggesting that the president is? Doesn't hear the sounds of the people? Because if he did, he wouldn't do that.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, right, they have been quite deaf to the sounds of the people for 2.5 years. That's why there has the crisis on the ground, right? And then, and these politicians are looked for survival, right, and how to survive. So I can tell you now, right, when the unfortunate events that happened on May 9th, the unfortunate events, right, naturally the president was put under pressure by people in his party saying you have to remain, we have a law and order situation as well, in addition to the economic crisis, you are needed. And then, right, he's trying to find a way out. So then he brings in a prime minister, as I said, without conditionality, who says that's okay. Then they are now struggling to really form a government because they wanted to have everybody participating in government to give it the face that is acceptable to the markets, to the local population, and into the international community. That's where they are, right?
And that's where they are, and that's where we are just now for a break. And we'll see you after listening to the headlines from this evening's primetime news. And we'll find out the answer, shall we, about the dollar crisis.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
Protests in Sri Lanka demanding fuel. MP Ramesh Patrana's confession.
මුග්ධ දේශපාලනඥයින් කිහිප දෙනෙක් මෙතෙන්ට ආපු ජනතාවට අනියම් බලපෑමක් කරා.
JVP leader denies involvement in unrest.
අපි කවුරුත් එතන ඉඳලා නැහැ. මර කණ්ඩායම් අරගෙන තමුන්නාස්ලන් හිටියේ. ආණ්ඩු බලය අරගෙන ලයිසන්ස් කණ්ඩිය.
What is Sri Lanka's real position?
බිලියන එකක් වුණත් බිලියන 10 වුණත් ගෙවන්න මිලියනයක්වත් නැහැ.
Special commemoration at Gotagogama.
News First, Newsline with Faraz Shaukat Ali.
Welcome back to Newsline Live. I'm in conversation with Mr. Eran Wickramaratne from the SJB, Member of Parliament. Now then, some people get drunk consuming alcohol. A very particular band of people, they get drunk with power. Eran Wickramaratne, the new Prime Minister said that he will turn to friendly nations. So why, pray, are the gas queues and the petrol queues still there? Why? If that's the case, where are these friendly nations? What's happened to them?
Yes.
Where's his plan? There's no plan, there's nothing. Yeah. And there's no dollars.
Yeah. So as you know that you need 600,000
well,
600
I
million,
needed about 635 million. Yes.
Yeah, $600 million a month for bare essentials.
Yeah.
Most of it is for fuel, but then it's for your gas, it's for electricity, basic medicines, right,
That's
and
right.
so forth. So that is what we call bridging finance that is needed. Put the economy right, you need the IMF program in place because you have to go for your reforms, you know, getting your revenue in, cutting your expenses. That has to be absolutely done. And why do you need the IMF program? Because the IMF program is really a positive sign for the markets, and it's a positive sign because you get access to the international debt markets. It's a positive sign for investors and so forth, right? So you have to absolutely get there. Then the bridging finance, as you said, comes generally from the multilateral organizations, the World Bank, the ADB, and the friendly countries, right? So we are actually wishing the government well that they will actually be able to succeed. But then this has to go beyond a wish. It has to be really, how can you actually succeed? So the first thing they are looking for is credibility. What's the credibility that this actually can be done? Right.
And I don't mean to interrupt, but I must say we've only got 26 or some minutes. This credibility, and I hear what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. But honestly, this country needs dollars. There are ships out there. They haven't paid them. We are incurring demurrages. $25,000 for the smaller vessel, $100,000 per day. Honestly, doesn't anybody care?
For us, it's something like this. For us, you have a personal need. You are desperately needing money. But for us, the people who are giving you the money, they may be donors, they may be bankers. If they think that you have no credibility for us, they're not going to give it to you. I mean, this fundamental thing needs to be understood. The IMF is also a bank. People haven't understood this. It's a bank. So it will look first for that. That issue needs to be resolved. Then they know who they are dealing with. Then they know whether those people are going to repay. Then they know if they sign an agreement, will that agreement be honored? That is why I am emphasizing that. So that needs to be done. Then in terms of actually getting it, you will get some money. The World Bank has already given some money. India has given you some suppliers credits. Now, there are other credits that are needed. What are your big expenses? Your big expenses in your 600 million...
500 million is for fuel.
It's for fuel. Then you have some fertilizer, which is probably not in that number. And then you have the gas, right, that you need to...
It's 30 million, 35 million for coal, you need and 70 million for medicine.
That's right, and the coal and the medicine. So, either you have to get aid, which very likely that you won't get hardly anything, or you have to get basically suppliers credits from these countries. India has been giving some suppliers credits. Now the big ones that we need are like oil. So where will the oil suppliers credits come from? It has to come from the Middle East. This government needs to go to the Middle East and get those supplier credits.
But
do you understand?
How can this government or any government in Sri Lanka go to the Middle East and try and ask them for oil and concessionary terms when I want to say it, when the Muslim community has been so badly treated in the past? I've said it's up front, it's true.
Yeah, for us, that's exactly my point. That is why I'm saying that you have to have credibility when you are dealing with this. We have the confidence that we can get those supplier credits. We have the confidence not only on oil, even on things like fertilizer, we will be able to get supplier credits, right? That is why the fundamentals need to be understood. And we are saying for us to do that, right, the basic issue needs to be resolved, right? This government, internationally, what did it do? It made enemies out of the international community. Whether it's the Middle East, and our markets are in the Middle East, it's not only oil, it's even our exports going to the Middle East, right? Our markets are in Europe, right? What have we done even there? We haven't really addressed the issues that they have raised in those markets. That is what I meant by we need an all-party government, an all-party cabinet. So to get that basic thing, let's address the issue. Even now, if we can agree on a roadmap and on a timetable, right, we could come into government and help this government. But what, if that's not done, we are still willing to remain in opposition and give this government the support that it needs.
In which case, why don't you help them, the government, to get the dollars? Because we have no dollars.
So for us, it's not in our hands. They have created the problem.
But you all have announced that you all are willing to support them on key matters.
Yeah, but for us to support them, they have to be willing to accept what we are saying. How can you help somebody who is not willing and accepting what you are saying.
Do you all want ministerial positions?
No. If we were taking...
Okay, then do you want any form of position?
No.
What do you want?
No, Faraz. If we were wanting ministerial positions, Sajid Premdas would have been Prime Minister of this country already. We would have been ministers. No. We are not going for deals. We are dealing with issues and principles here. Even now, if they agree...
Isn't the biggest deal getting dollars into the country?
No, but to get it from those people, they want to deal with people who have their confidence. To have their confidence, right, we are saying, right, let's agree, right, let's agree on the 21st Amendment, let's agree on the abolition of the executive presidency, let's find a dignified way of getting the people who have really messed up this country out of the way in a dignified way, on an agreed plan, and let's rebuild this country. If you think, Faraz, that without undertaking the basics that you can just go and hold your hands out there and you're going to get help, it's not going to happen.
Mr. Eran Wickramaratne, I put it to you that political and economic crises are both enjoined at the waist. They're intertwined. Isn't that true?
That's correct.
So how do you... The people out there, honestly, I don't think that they give tuppence who is who, as long as the Rajpaks is out, but they want to know when the problem is going to be resolved.
For us, there is no timetable on when the problem can be resolved, but we have to at least start to resolve it, to start. So we are telling the government.
He's already been there for 4 days.
If you don't want, you know, to agree to what we are saying, you try your best, right? We will be in opposition. We are willing to be in opposition, not take cabinet positions, and we can get together. We can talk about a common minimum program, and we will support a common minimum program from outside if you think that that's going to work.
And the people in the meantime continue to suffer.
Well, I mean, the people who have created it either should get out of the way, right, and let others solve the problem. That's one way to do it. Well, otherwise, if they are trying to show that they can solve the problem, then we will remain outside and we will provide the support as and when it is necessary.
And the people will continue to suffer in the meantime.
Yeah, this is going to get prolonged, unnecessarily prolonged, you see, because you need to get an agreement with the IMF, you need to get your debt restructuring, you need the bridging finance, right, and that's from the friendly countries and the multilateral agencies. You need to recapitalize your banks. For us, I might add this on the recapitalization of banks. I said one priority is to recapitalize the state banks. Right? If you look at the markets today, they were borrowing about 700 billion on the markets today. A lot of that is going into the state banks, right? Because that's the way they are supporting their balance sheets, right? The interest rates are high. They're between 20 and 25% if somebody goes to borrow. If you take the treasury bill rates, they were like 23, 24%. It came a percentage or two down today because 97 billion matured and only 17 billion was taken by the government. Right? That is actually the picture that we actually have. Right? So how are we going to actually resolve that issue? How are we going to resolve that issue? Exchange rates, right, they have come down slightly. From the 375s it came to about 365, and that's a positive thing that it is coming down. But if we really look at addressing this issue, right, and to have a long-term sustainability, because you can't look at things like people asking me, stock markets went up on the announcement of a new prime minister, and stock markets came down today. You can't go by that.
That's just sentiment.
Those are just sentiment. You just can't go by that. So if we are really going to look at the fundamentals, now the capitalization not only of the state banks, you look at it another way. You take a bank, it has local currency and it has foreign currency. The moment the exchange rate goes from 300 to 375, the balance sheet of the bank is expanded. When the balance sheet of the bank is expanded, the capital is in rupees. Right? So what the bank can actually extend in terms of credit then gets restricted. So even the banks need to get capitalized. That is why I'm saying, right? Now nobody has talked about that issue and I'm just raising that issue. That is why I'm saying that the basic things need to be done immediately. The resolution of the political issue, that the Rajapaksas have to move out of the way. so that there is credibility.
What about the Wickramaratnes of this world?
Yeah, all the others in Parliament can get together. All the others can get together and we can discuss the details
but
of getting together.
But must go.
Has to go, because that is the cry. Because if we go, I mean, you yourself said, right, that this government did not permit COVID patients' burial when the World Health Organization said there is no scientific basis for it. Around the world it was permitted, but not only in Sri Lanka.
Absolutely awful.
So how
Absolutely
so
awful.
do you follow what I'm saying?
I do.
We have to create the credibility, and we are confident that the economic issues can be handled, but the foundation needs to be put properly before the house can be built.
At a time when communities have self-realized, it is sad that a family has not self-realized and a nation is suffering owing to this. On that note, Eran Wickramaratne, thank you very much. It's now time for the primetime news. And as always, God bless you all.
Wow.